how you are going to do it differently this time around?
Okay, so
What's your plan?
okay, so one thing, at least try to bear with me here, but like you're asking for like a blueprint, like detail, but and that's okay. But the thing is,
like general blue, very, very general.
Okay.
I mean, what's gonna do where do you start?
So
you said
the criticism of that we would draw from the USSR is basically reforming to instead of what they had in the beginning to like basically state capitalism. So for example,
there wasn't state capitalism in the USSR. You guys are using this stupid phrase, excuse my language, state capitalism.
That's what we have now here.
Capitalism and the Soviet system are totally, completely compatible. Let me ask you this question. What's the definition, by the way, since you brought it up? What's the definition of state capitalism? I mean, what is it?
State capitalism is basically when you have a very oversized bureaucracy and you use profit motive in your system.
Profit. You know that profit was no problem. You know that the profit was criminalized, was illegal in USSR. You're aware of that, right?
Okay, so for example,
yes or no?
Like how was industry made in the U.S.?
So you don't even know how industry was running over there. Okay.
I'm asking it rhetorically. That's what I'm saying.
But you believe that there was a profit. There was a profit margin in USSR. Do you think there were small businesses in Russia? Somebody you brought bakery as an example.
Yeah.
Do you think there's someone like
you owned by the state? Yes.
You and I, we decided to open a bakery. Do you think it was possible in USSR?
Again, I know it's owned by the state. That's what I'm saying.
So it wasn't possible.
Again, that's what I'm saying. It's like I know it was owned by the state. So that's the example. So what I'm talking about in terms of.
But you're saying there was state capitalism.
Yeah.
So how is it state capitalism supposed to, allow like you and I to open a bakery, for instance, right?
Yeah.
So how does capitalism come in? That's the part that I just don't understand.
So for example, there's an upper echelon in the Soviet Union, correct?
Who were they?
So I'm saying
who were these people? What do you call upper echelons?
So I'm saying heavily deep type bureaucrats, pretty much.
Well, okay, yeah, but what does capitalism have to do with it?
So I'm saying they had a lot of money on top of that as well.
No, they had no money. That's another misnomer. You gotta understand, money meant absolutely nothing in USSR. Like money means absolutely nothing in Venezuela today. If you have $100, go buy toilet paper, proverbial toilet paper. If something doesn't exist, money doesn't matter. You can have 1,000 rubles. You go in the morning to the bakery and there's no bread. There's nothing you can do with 1,000 rubles. And the average salary in Russia was about 120 rubles a month. Mm-hmm. Even if you have 1,000 rubles, you would not be able to find a loaf of bread. If it's not there, it's not there, no matter how much money you have. Did you know that?
Wait, hold on.
Smells marijuana. Ugh. So, getting back to state capitalism, what's the definition of state capitalism? I mean, what's that?
So, for example,
something that you're trying to avoid, right? You said not to have state capitalism, right?
Pretty much.
Okay, so what would be then your system, which is not state capitalism, as you call it?
So, the reason we try to advocate, instead of going because back then originally it was proposed from basically Tsarist imperial Russia.
What Russia?
I'm talking about the revolution.
Okay, Tsarist, okay.
Tsarist Imperial Russia.
Okay.
And then they tried, and then the steps they were taking towards communism at the time is a transitory step from going from that to basically a social democracy to socialism, and then they try to achieve communism. The reason we would say the mistake they made is including wages in the system.
Including what? Wages?
Including wages.
Wages?
Yes. Because
wages.
Yes. So the reason I say that was a mistake is because when you have wages in a system, it starts creating a division between.
A division.
It starts creating a division.
So no wages.
No wages, exactly.
So let's say you, the workers, right? You're still talking about producing something, right?
Yes.
So let's say you produce toilet paper.
Yeah.
You decide to produce toilet paper somehow, okay? Yeah. And now I need matches.
Okay.
You know, I have toilet paper, I need matches, but you have no matches. What do we do?
So, well,
No wages. How am I gonna get toilet paper or matches?
okay, sorry about that. That's distracting.
Yeah.
So, for example,
If there are no wages, no money. In other words,
Yeah.
right? No money, no wages.
okay.
So how do you get things?
You're talking about trade, right?
No, I'm talking about you said that you want the system that exists with no money.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen? How are we going to exchange goods and services? How is that going to work in your system?
The problem, I guess the thing you're saying now, like you're still thinking about it like in terms of like capitalist notion, in terms of goods and services that we can exchange.
Right. So
So
explain
for example,
to me
those things can still be exchanged. Like
how.
people still can exchange that, like literally.
How?
Just exchanging.
How? How?
Literally
Exchange what?
exchange goods. Like why wouldn't not exchange?
How practically do you see it? So I go to the factory that makes toilet paper,
Okay.
and I need matches. So I take toilet paper and go to someone and exchange it for matches. Is that how it's gonna
but
done?
the
We call it
other-
barter, right?
I mean, that's one thing that can be possible, but the other
It's
thing,
possible.
I'm saying that's one thing that's possible. Again, the other thing too is like.
So you think it is possible?
So here's the other thing too, in terms of like the times that we live in now. Everything, a lot of these things can be taken care of in terms of automation.
But who's going to create automation? Who's going to take care of all of
I
it?
don't see. So here's the other problem. You think is like you're basically saying like all of us like needs at least some sort of money incentive to
Look,
do these things.
look at yourself.
Okay.
I mean, look at yourself.
Okay.
Now,
Good, I have two.
you have glasses, for instance,
Yeah.
okay? So where do the glasses come from? And what's involved in making glasses?
Machinery and human hands. A mixture of human.
What else?
I mean, what?
Raw,
in terms of
raw
shape.
materials.
Yeah, the
Raw
materials,
materials.
yeah.
Okay. So how do you know how many glasses you produce, what color, what size? Who decides that? Where to get plastic? To get plastic, by the way, you need oil. To get glass, you have to mine for it.
Yeah.
Then you have so many people involved making things that one part of this production doesn't know about the other part of production. They have no
So
idea.
here's the thing, though.
And capitalism combines them together. That's how capitalism works.
But that's division
I,
of
the
labor.
pencil, there's
Yeah.
kind of, famous.
I know, but that's the other thing. Like you're thinking about in terms of division of labor. Like, what is it about?
And
Like, why is it- why
you're
is-
wearing glasses. I mean, you're fine. You're all set. Everybody here is set. I mean, everything is working. So you want to change it to something that is what? Why?
So here's the thing. On a surface level, it just. But I don't know if it's because you've been here for a while now, correct? Yes.
Well, like 30 years, exactly.
Okay. So for example, like. I don't know if maybe it's the position you're in or something, but like I don't get how you consider basically half of the planet living on $1 a day working. Like how's that working?
It's not a matter of belief. In China, they used to work on $1 a day. In China, you know when it was? When Mao was in power. Okay.
But that's the current system now.
No, the system there was exactly like in the USSR, even worse than USSR. Okay. Then something changed, starting with Deng Xiaoping. I mean, history, of course.
Yeah.
So you know what changed?
Well,
They switched from exactly. And have you ever been to China?
No, I haven't.
No, I've been to China. I've been to Guangzhou. Back then it was like the so-called free economic zone, the best part of China, right next to Hong Kong. Horror story. It was 1991. I'm looking at the picture of Guangzhou today. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful metropolis. So what made this change? What created this change?
So, for example,
Capitalism. So getting back to working $1 a day, nobody is being paid in China $1 a day anymore. Nobody.
so you're telling me right now, like poverty doesn't exist in China? There's not.
It's much less. It's like day and night. Of course it exists, but it's so much less. And by the way, the definition of poverty is completely different in this country versus China versus some other country. Do we have people say, oh, we have poor people here? Of course we do. But the poorest person over here is so much richer than, let's say, an average African.
Yeah.
you know, or average Asian in general, like, with the exclusion of several countries.
And you know why that's the case, right?
Capitalism. Of course I do. Capitalism. Capitalism.
Okay. And
I know the answer. Yes.
The capitalism meaning the reason we're able to live like this is basically because as capitalism exists, we extract the majority of the resources from the planet, and that's the way we sustain our living, by basically exploiting the rest of the planet.
As capitalists. And what do you think the Russians were doing? You think they were not mining?
I know they were doing that too.
What do you think? What do you think?
In the 50s and
do you like the renewable energy? Right.
Yes.
You like renewable energy, I'm sure, right? You're for renewable energy.
I mean,
like solar panels, right?
It's not even a matter of like or not. It's literally scientifically the smarter thing to do.
Okay, fine. Let's take your argument. So you like solar panels, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
What are solar panels made of? Do you know?
So I'll bet you a bunch of resources. I can.
Well, like the most important thing. I mean, what converts solar light into electricity?
Not really sure, actually.
Photovoltaic cells.
Yeah.
So what are photovoltaic cells are made out of?
I'm not sure.
Rare earth metals.
Okay, yeah.
Where do we get rare earth metals?
I'm assuming like basically like underdeveloped countries usually.
Well, like China.
Okay.
China holds control of 95, if not 98% of all rare earth metals.
Okay.
And they're called rare earth metals not because they're rare, but because their concentration in the ore is so low that you have to extract a lot of ore to get sufficient quantities of lanthanum. I mean, there's a whole slew of these, elements that most people never even heard of. I mean, I happen to be a chemical engineer, so I just don't know this stuff.
Okay.
So when we talk about the resources, on the one hand, don't you see contradiction? You want green energy, but wait a minute. But where do we get all the ingredients then go into the production of green energy?
Okay.
Right? So we have to mine. We have to use the resources. And you're blaming capitalism. Capitalism is using, the resources.
What I'm talking about, for example, for example, what I'm talking about, you said, poor here means something different.
Oh, absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So, for example, like,
do you consider yourself poor or not?